What's up? My name is Lamb. Back at it again with another great video. On today's video, I am going to be giving my thoughts on the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 1, edited by his wife, Amy Jacquees Garvey. So this wasn't really at the top of my reading list, but hey, it's Black History Month. I dropped a video on how to build black wealth a couple weeks ago. Check that out. So let's get started. This book was decent. It was okay. A friend recommended it to me, so I thought I would check it out. And I read it in about 2 days. Most of that was just at work on breaks and lunch breaks, so it is a pretty quick read. I think it cost me maybe $15 on Amazon. It's 115 pages. So like I said, I read it in 2 days. You could probably read it in a day if you wanted to. And it's just the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey. So nothing he says in here is really profound. He does say a lot of interesting things, but nothing too, world changing or, it changed my life. I did learn about his Universal Negro Improvement Association. He doesn't talk about it in great detail, but he does mention that he started that and he was a part of that. So that was something good to know. I don't really know too much about him, and it isn't an autobiography or anything. It doesn't tell about his life at all. So if that's what you're interested in, I would not get this. What it really does is it just tells his philosophies and opinions. So the first two chapters are definitions: definition of history, chance, life. What else we got? Religion, nationhood. So the first two chapters are just his own. It's not a dictionary definition. It's his own definition of what these words mean, and nothing too like radical or far fetched or nothing like that. It's just regular, his own words. Um, at the beginning of chapter 3, that's when he starts to get into more of, I guess, the philosophy stuff, and he defines man. Man is the individual who is able to shape his own character, master his own will, direct his own life, and shape his own ends. I thought that was interesting, so I did take notes, and I made a note right there because by this definition of man, a lot of males in our society are not men. A man who is the individual who is able to shape his own character, master his own will. That's a big one. A lot of people, a lot of men nowadays, they don't master their own will. They don't direct their own life, and they don't shape their own ends. So I thought that was real interesting. So by his definition, a lot of people would not be considered men in this day and age. Later on down the page, he talks about as far as the Negro race is concerned, we can find but few real men. Oh, so even back then, like he said, it wasn't a lot of men. So today is even less. You cannot find but few real men to measure up to the higher purpose of the creation. And because of this lack of manhood in the race, we have stagnated for centuries and now find ourselves at the foot of the great human ladder. I thought that was an interesting point because a lot of people nowadays they coined this term toxic masculinity, and just saying that masculine traits are toxic or can be toxic, or certain masculine traits. And then I think that's funny because on Facebook I saw that somebody commented, it was like, it's not the problem that we have toxic masculinity, is we have lack of masculinity. The stuff that people are calling toxic masculinity are not masculine things. These are perceived grown men doing feminine things. That's why it's perceived as toxic masculinity. It's not masculinity at all. It's the lack of masculinity that is what's wrong with the country in whole. But I guess even referring to, like he said, the black race, he said that is for centuries, and that's why we find ourselves at the foot of the great human ladder. So I don't want to misinterpret what he said, but that's what it sounded like to me. So he talks about lack of manhood, and the person on Facebook was talking about lack of masculinity. So I think that's very interesting that it's lack of manhood, lack of masculinity, and not toxic masculinity. I thought that was relevant to our present time and our day and age. So I thought that was really cool. Um, Next page over. this note: we should be able to be our own race and still respect each other. I thought that was important. And just to summarize what he was saying, he was just basically, well, let me read it. I believe that white men should be white, yellow men should be yellow, and black men should be black, and the great panorama of races until each and every race by its own intuitive lifts itself up on the common standard of humanity as to completely respect and appreciation of all, and so make it possible for each one to stretch out a hand and welcome without being able to be prejudiced against the other because of any inferior and unfortunate condition. So this is the thing that, like, hey, we don't have to all be the same. We can be different and still respect each other. So I think a lot of people don't understand that nowadays. Even like a lot of people don't understand that nowadays. Like I said, we can be different and still respect each other. We don't all have to, like, a lot of people, oh, there is no race, it's the human race. I mean, yeah, I get that, but it's okay to be black, it's okay to be white, it's okay to be whatever you want to be, man, woman. Like, you can't even be a man anymore. It's okay to be what you are, as long as you're respectful to others and other people are respectful to you, you can, it's okay to identify with certain stuff, certain aspects. So it's okay to be black. My next note I have is blacks to develop country after slavery, then let us starve economically instead of killing us. I thought this was a good point to tap, because basically what he was saying is that they used us for our purpose as far as the country, white people. They used black Americans for their purpose to develop the country in slavery and in post-slavery, and now that they are done with us, they can't just kill us off. They are going to kind of starve us out economically, and then we just die ourselves because they can't physically kill us, because just how that would look to the world and humanity and the rest of the countries. Hopefully if they did try to do something like that, somebody would come in and stop us, or stop them, like during World War II, something like that. So the plan is to still kill us, but slowly and through economics. And I feel like that is true. I've talked to a number of people, and we have discussed and explored the idea that they are trying to kill off black people. Black people in America, they're trying to kill us off, and they want to extinguish the race. Maybe, maybe not worldwide, but at least in this country, and eventually worldwide if they could. So I definitely believe that economically, I feel like they economically, I feel like they have it out for us. But that doesn't mean we cannot prevail. And he talks about that a lot in his book. I don't know if I specifically tabbed it, but he just said, a man is a man. Like Biggie said, niggas bleed just like us. So if you see a great country that have done these things, or they've risen from the ashes or whatever. He was telling this story about some Irish people that escaped, and it took them 700 years or whatever. He was just like, people can rise up, we can rise up. People can be oppressed, then we can be oppressors or whatever. Or people can be great, we can be great. So it's no bounds to. There's no cap to our abilities, and to suggest that there is a cap is an insult to God. So he did talk about that, and I thought that was a good concept also. And just reading through this, I noticed, I was like, Marcus Garvey is a great man. Somebody I didn't even know who he was until about 2 years ago, but when you get around a certain community or whatever, people talk about him a lot, and I'm like, he died at maybe, I think, 54 years old, and I'm just thinking he wrote his book, and I'm like, he's just a man. He's just a man with his philosophy and opinions. So if Marcus Garvey was so great, why can't we all be great? Why can't it be 1,000, 100,000, a million Marcus Garveys, So he was a great man, but he was just a man. So I realized that when I was reading the book. He talks about cannot depend on government. Government is made You cannot depend on the government because the government is made of the people, and the people are prejudiced. So, this idea that we can't depend on the government is a reoccurring theme if you read books, and it's not just like I don't. It's not just like the bad people who say it. It's like people say it. People say it, and it's something that you might want to consider or take seriously. People don't still think still have this concept that the government is here to save them and give them everything. And I think I heard Boyce Watkins say it. He was like, basically, like Joe Biden is like people's Jesus. Like if you think about it, the Democratic Party, the government is people, is God. When you pray to God, most likely, what are you praying for? You're praying for food. You're praying for stability. You're praying for housing or whatever. So the people who are answering your prayers, if you expect the government to give you that stuff, then they're basically your God. They're providing you with the stuff that you need, the stuff that you pray for. And if they're the answer, they're your God. So, yeah, that was Boyce Watkins. So, that's an interesting concept. So, Marcus Garvey talked about it in his book too. You can't depend on the government. Government is made of the people, and the people are prejudiced. All right. Next thing I tab. He thinks that black people should build up the nation of Africa, and that will gain the respect of other nations. So he does have this philosophy of powernomics, to quote Claude Anderson. He does have this concept of powernomics, but I think he just feels like it's best to do that back in Africa, back in our home country, just because we have roots there, we have ties there, and just it'd be better versus being the minority in a majority white country. So he thinks we should do it in Africa. And I'm still torn on that. I don't know how I feel about the whole go back to Africa thing, because like that is our roots, but at the same time we built and developed this country, and this is my home. So I don't know if I just want to abandon it and move to Africa. So I'm still on the fence, torn about that, between that being the homeland and then this is being my home now. So I don't know how I feel too much about that. But they said this next note is black man in Africa like Indians in America. Never thought of that. But I do remember the concept, basically saying how the Europeans came over here, and America was predominantly Indians and they killed them all off, and just saying that Africa could end up like the Indians, where if these other cultures, other nationalities, other races infiltrate Africa, Africa could be the minority, and like Africans could be the minority in their own country. And I've never even thought about that, because I'm like, Africa is for black people, but then Native American, like America was for Native Americans. That's like, this was their land, and over the span of however many, well, I guess they got here in like the 1400s in Spain down there. So in a matter of 400 years, the other races have made them the minority, and like a small minority of their own country. And it's quite possible that that could happen in Africa, or just the thought that it could happen in Africa. So that's crazy. Like I never even thought about that. And I know a lot of I know they have had mandates. They have had like government mandates, I think, and control. Other countries have had control over Africa in the past. I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore, but I know they have in the past. I know a lot of like Chinese people are moving to Africa and making like shops, like little Chinatowns, and Chinese food, and other nail salons, hair salons. What they do. So they're starting to do that in Africa. So I never even thought that Africans could be the minority in their own country. The last note I have is he has this repeated theme of individual responsibility. So let's see what this says. Men of the Negro race, let me say to you that a greater future is in store for us. We have no cause to lose hope, to become faint-hearted. We must realize that upon ourselves depend our destiny. Our future, we must carve out that destiny, that future, that destiny, and we who make up the Universal Negro Improvement Association have pledged ourselves that nothing in the world shall stand in our way, nothing in the world shall discourage us, but opposition shall make us work harder, shall bring us closer together, so that one man, the millions of us, will march on towards that goal that we have set for ourselves. So just like I was saying, like this theme of like you can't depend on the government. If you start reading some of these books, you'll see this theme of individual responsibility. And although you can say, they owe us this, they owe us that, which they may owe us, but at the end of the day, if they're not gonna give it to us, we gotta get it on our own. So you'll see that recurring theme. So I just wanted to go over this again. This is the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 1, edited by Amy Jacquees Garvey. And I think this is a Live Empowered Publishing 2020. So I think this is a newer version, an updated one. They have a previous one with a different cover. So all in all, it was a decent book. It was a quick read. I would suggest if you have kids and you're trying to teach them about Black history, personal responsibility, and just more about blackness, then um, you can recommend them this book maybe in like 7th or 8th grade, just so they can start going down that path and getting a little bit more enlightened. If you have any books that you feel like Black people should read, that all Black people should read, drop it down below. Let us know the name of the book. If you know a book that of any just genre that you think I should read personally, let me know, and I'll order it and I'll read it and I'll do a book review and let you know what I thought about it. Thanks for watching.